All right. Good morning, good afternoon to wherever you're listening and whenever you're listening to this. This is the St. Louis Podcast, and thank you for tuning in for another week. Of course, my name is Eric Brown, president at Vi Media and partner at Mogul Holdings. Today, we have some exciting news. We got some exciting stuff to talk about. And one of the biggest things this week, of course, in my opinion, is the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered. That's what I want to be doing right now instead of doing this podcast is playing Oblivion. I am sorry. I am just being honest. Of course, if you don't know, if you've lived under a box, if you're old and you've never played video games, if you're young, too young and never heard of Oblivion, which is crazy. But if you're my age, around my age, I would say 10 years older, 10 years younger, you know Oblivion. And if you've played video games, you know Oblivion. So, of course, 2006 RPG classic, Bethesda Softworks. And of course, this time around, Virtuos is actually, I believe, their Paris office used Unreal Engine 5. So they have, Bethesda has a creation engine. Virtuos actually essentially connected the creation engine with the Unreal Engine 5 to give a lot of the visuals and stuff like that, because of course one of the main reasons they remastered it was because the game was from '06. So you can just think about graphics from '06, right? And this was literally top 3 RPG game of all time when it came out. I mean, I still sometimes would boot up Oblivion even as recent as just a couple of years ago. So this game being remastered, they also fixed. Going into the weeds a little bit, they also fixed, I say fixed, some of the leveling issues. So that way you can, every time you level up, you can put your attributes or experience points, whatever it is, into the different willpower, strength, endurance, etc., instead of before having to choose based off what you were ranking up. So that's super nice. They still have all of the great audio in there. I went to the Copious Coin Purse, of course. My boy there, we got to take him down. They're in, of course, the Market District, of course, of Imperial City. Super hyped that they re-released this and remastered it. And they also changed, made it a little bit better when it comes to, the menu, fighting, things like that. So it's more than remastered. Because how we think about remastered is literally just the exact same game, maybe a little bit better visuals. This is like they just redid the same game for 2025, which is amazing. The next thing, of course, I'm going to be on the lookout for is Fallout 3 Remastered. I'll give you guys a year or two to get that out, because I know they're also, of course, working on Elder Scrolls 6, right? If you don't know, they, of course, built Skyrim. I believe that came out in 2011, if I'm not mistaken. 2011, look at that. 2011. So everyone's, just been hyped about Elder Scrolls 6, and then they drop Oblivion Remastered. So if you have Xbox and you have Game Pass, you can play this for free right now. If you don't, the game is $49.99, and it's worth it. It's amazing. I forgot how much I remember about that game as I'm going through it. Main quest line's been great. It's a good time. Shout out Bethesda, thank you, because after the whole Starfield fiasco, my God, what a mediocre RPG game that was. Shout out Bethesda, though. Absolutely amazing. We got some other breaking news stories here today. What did I want to talk about? Let me get here. NASA's Hubble Space Telescope 35th anniversary. So we're going a little bit nerdy today. We're going video games. We're going Eric's Science Corner. So on April 24th, 2025, NASA and the European Space Agency celebrated the Hubble Space Telescope's 35th anniversary, marking its launch aboard the Space Shuttle Discovery on April 24th, 1990. And of course, huge news back then when that was launched. A little bit before I was born. The milestone was highlighted by the release of 4 stunning new images If you haven't seen them, maybe we can put them up on the screen, editor, if you're listening. If not, just go ahead and look those up. We got one from Mars, the Rosetta. I'm going to butcher this. Rosette Nebula, Planetary Nebula, NGC 2899. There we go. I can say that. And Barred Spiral Galaxy, NGC 5335, showcasing Hubble's enduring scientific and cultural impact. That's right. Let's give some details on the Hubble. Made nearly 1.7 million observations of approximately 55,000 astronomical targets, resulting in over 22,000 peer-reviewed papers and 1.3 million citations as of February 2025. Shout out Hubble Telescope. Its 400 terabyte data archive is NASA's largest for an astrophysics mission, second only to the James Webb Space Telescope. So, of course, the Mars springtime view with water ice clouds taken when Mars was 60 million miles from Earth, showing seasonal changes. Rosette Nebula, star-forming region with vibrant gas and dust. NGC 2899, a moth-shaped planetary nebula with the white dwarf star. In the NGC 5335, a distant barred spiral galaxy, highlighting Hubble's deep space research. Of course, Hubble's advanced camera for surveys and wide field camera 3, upgraded during a 2009 servicing mission, enabled high-resolution imaging across ultraviolet, visible, and infrared wavelengths. Its spectral graphs analyze cosmic objects, composition, and motion. I can read today. Hubble Space Telescope's absolutely amazing. 35 years. That's an incredible amount of data. 400 terabytes. Almost doesn't seem like enough. So we have some ongoing concerns. Hubble works alongside the James Webb Space Telescope with no plans for retirement despite its age. Wow. Its ability to observe ultraviolet light remains unique. NASA is releasing interactive web apps, educational materials, and a 2025 calendar with Hubble and Webb images to keep the public hooked. Now, there are budget concerns. Space.com notes potential NASA budget cuts under the Trump administration, raising questions about Hubble's future operations. Keep it funded, baby. Shout out to STEM. Now, in other news, talking about the Hubble Space Telescope, again, in Science Corner. Of course, this is something that I haven't talked about with even my friends in forever, because this goes back to 2017, but we used to talk about this all the time because we're like, is this aliens? What's going on? So if you, and then of course I get a YouTube video recommended to me on the way here for the podcast today, and I was like, I haven't thought about this in forever. Oumuamua, hold on, how do we say this? Pronunciation.
Subscribing for of it passing through. Muamua. Oh. Yes, listen. Oh.
Muamua. Whatever it is. The space thing. It's the first confirmed interstellar object to pass through our solar system. Was discovered. I don't think it was the first confirmed interstellar object to pass through our solar. Some of the stuff from AI, who knows when it comes to Grok, what they're even writing or ChatGPT. But this is where we get our information from now. So we can't really listen to Wikipedia because, as we know, not that great and it's not that useful. The first confirmed interstellar object to pass through our solar system was discovered on October 19, 2017 by the Pan-STARRS 1 telescope in Hawaii. It captivated scientists due to its unusual shape, trajectory, and behavior, sparking debates about its origins and nature. So I'll just get to it. TLDR, it's now labeled as like a dark comet, which is odd because that means like all of the telescopes that we had wasn't able to see like the cosmic arrays from it. And this was like a new thing that's being produced. So this is one of the new things. There's like two different ones. Essentially, one person believes that this was some sort of interstellar, or not interstellar. It's a great movie. Some sort of life force, say outside of course, our galaxy, and he thinks it was used essentially as a very like thin sheet. Imagine the thinnest sheet, like a napkin, essentially, and it can get blown around by solar winds because, I'll say it right here, how it moves and how it accelerated and how it's tumbling through space was something that was never seen before, and we still can't explain it really through physics. Let's see here. So detection. It was identified by Robert Work at the Haleakala Observatory, spotted 40 days after its closest approach to the sun. About 23 million times away. It was already outbound, moving at 58,000 miles per hour. Its hyperbolic orbit confirmed it wasn't bound to our sun, unlike comet or asteroids. It passed closest to the Earth on October 14, 2017. Telescopes like Hubble, Spitzer, and ground-based observations studied it for 33 days until it faded beyond detection in November 2017. The shape is elongated, cigar-shaped, or possibly pancake-like I was saying, with dimensions estimated at 100 to 400 meters long, 35 to 167 meters wide, and 15 to 80 meters thick. I know we're all in America, or most of us listening to this, so I'm sorry it's in meters. Just remember science class from middle school and make the adjustments. Its 10 to 1 length to width ratio is unprecedented among other known solar system objects. The color in the surface, it's reddish, likely due to cosmic ray exposure over millions of years, similar to the Kuiper Belt objects. No dust or gas emissions were detected, ruling out typical comet behavior. It tumbles chaotically every 7 to 8 hours, suggesting a violent past, possibly a collision in its home system. Likely composed of rock, metal, or frozen gases. Again, we don't know. But its lack of coma, gas, and dust cloud puzzled scientists. Its anomalous behavior, non-gravitational acceleration. In 2018, a team led by Marco Micheli found it accelerated slightly as it left the solar system, inconsistent with gravity alone. This suggested outgassing, but no comet-like tail was observed, right? Like I said. SETI's breakthrough listen scanned for artificial signals using the Green Bay telescope, finding none, debunking early alien craft theories, so there's no radio signals. Brightness variations. Its brightness fluctuated by a factor of 10, indicating its elongated shape and tumbling motion. So there's a bunch of hypotheses, right? Like I was kind of saying. Some argue it's loosely bound dust cloud. It could be totally, could be a tidally disrupted piece of a planet or moon ejected during a star's death. Nitrogen ice formation, hydrogen iceberg, and then, of course, like the one I was telling you before, also the very thin sheet, essentially, of, how we send probes out and we launch them. This would be like a balloon, a star balloon. There we go. Think about it like a star balloon. And it would just get pushed around based on gravity or based on, inertia or based on whatever, right? All the different physics. I didn't pay attention in physics that much. So, of course, we don't know where it's from. We don't know why it doesn't have a coma. So why didn't it show comet-like outgassing? Its extreme elongation is unlike anything in our solar system. Why is it so unique? It's now, too faint to observe. But the Verisey Rubin Observatory, which I believe is being built and being finished this year, could detect similar objects, refining our understanding. Also, apparently, we're wanting to shoot a probe at it, see if we can catch up to it. So we'll see if that happens. But it's at all the, I can go into all like it's alien technology and different things like that. And, just based on how it's moving, because of course we still do not have physics. We cannot explain it. Humans cannot explain it, how it was moving like that, how it had acceleration as it was leaving, our solar system. We can't explain it. We don't know. Because the normal ways we would explain it found out to not be the case with this, what they now say, dark comet, as one of the theories. So it's absolutely crazy. Of course, just like the Hubble, this is tied to NASA's, legacy. So we'll have to see what comes of this. But I saw the Hubble thing. Of course, this news popped up as I was on my way here. So I was like, this is just perfect timing. Perfect timing.
Hey there, St. Louis podcast listeners. We've got some exciting news from our friends over at Farmers Insurance of St. Louis, led by the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Lee of Farmers Insurance.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking for a job or to own your own business under a brand that everyone and their cousin is familiar with, Mark Lee with Farmers Insurance of St. Louis is recruiting insurance agency owners here in St. Louis for their Farmers Insurance Mentorship Program.
And as many of you are aware, Garrett and I have owned quite a few successful and award-winning businesses over the years. And in a past life, one of those was a farmers insurance agency out of Chesterfield, Missouri.
Eric and I know firsthand how hard it is to start a business under a brand that no one has heard of and convince consumers and businesses to trust that you're an authority figure in your industry.
And as many of you know, we own an award-winning marketing firm, Vi Media, the one that Garrett was just discussing. And building that company's reputation literally took years. We're still building it to this day, and it's been 8 years in the making. However, with the Trusted Farmers Insurance Agency name on the building, we got started when we started our Farmers Insurance Agency. The trust was already built and has been for 96 years.
And if you can't do math, that means Farmers Insurance has been around since 1928. Luckily, you don't need to be a human calculator to get rich as an owner of your very own Farmers Insurance Agency.
Nope. All you have to do is reach out to the one and only Mark Lee, the leader of Farmers Insurance in the greater St. Louis metropolitan area.
That's right. So ensure he continues to sponsor our show and your favorite podcast, the St. Louis Podcast, by quitting your job today and calling Mark Lee. I wouldn't even wait for him to answer your call. Call your boss now, quit, and become your very own business owner.
Mm-hmm. Visit insurancecareerstl.com. That is insurancecareerstl.com. Should we spell it out?
Yes. It would
INSURANCE, career, CAREER, STL.com, insurancecareerstl.com. Go there now. Back to the podcast.
And wait, insurancecareerstl.com.
Back to the podcast. All right. Do we want to talk about the market? No, I don't. All right, let's talk about tech companies real quick. Moving over, adjusting. On April 23rd, 2025, the European Union fined Apple for breaching the Digital Markets DMA, marking the first sanctions and Meta, by the way, marking the first sanctions under the 2023 legislation to curb big tech's power. The fines stem from data privacy and anti-competitive practices, escalated EU and U.S. trade tensions. And of course, the Apple Store, has been a point of contention for absolutely years. So I'm not surprised that, something can hopefully come of this. Same with, Meta's under the same boat. So EU targeted Apple's App Store restrictions, which prevent developers from steering users to cheaper deals outside the platform, right? Like we talked about, Apple must remove these technical commercial barriers within 60 days or face further penalties. We'll have to see what they do here. This would be awesome news. I'm curious what happens on the security side, though, of you just being able to build like a bug and just upload it in the App Store. So we'll have to see what goes on there. But hopefully they're going to open it up so that way, you don't just like Amazon. The reason you don't buy anything on the apps, on the actual, it essentially directs you to the website is because they don't want to have to pay a purchase percentage and send it to Apple absolutely every single time. So it's kind of a monopoly when it comes to that. It is their product. I get it. But also, it's one of the only handful of phones that are actually bought here in the US. So something needs to be done. Of course, Meta's payer consent ad model require users to pay for an ad-free experience or shared data violates DMA rules. Meta introduced a less data-intensive ad option, but the EU issued a cease and desist order demanding compliance within 60 days. The $700 million in total is modest compared to EU prior penalties, reflecting a focus on compliance over punishment and caution to avoid Trump's retaliation. Trump called the fines economic extortion, threatening tariffs on EU goods. The problem is these guys are just in Trump's ear. So, I don't trust the tech oligarchy. I don't think anyone should. I think it's silly to do so. The White House is considering responsive actions with J.D. Vance criticizing EU AI and tech regulations. Okay, that's a little bit different than what we're talking about here, J.D. Vance, so I do appreciate it. Of course, trade tensions, so the fines risk escalating Trump's 10% EU tariff. Apple and Meta, may overhaul their app and ad systems. Good. Potentially raising costs for users or reducing service quality. I don't see why that would be the case. I think that's just marketing on their behalf. EU demands a multi-billion-dollar tariff on Meta's Kaplan called the EU demands a multi-billion-dollar tariff on their model. The EU's DMA enforcement could inspire U.S. legislation like the Open Markets Act, but Trump's deregulation push may stall it. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Very interesting. Very interesting. I believe the reason that we all have USB-C on our iPhones now is because of the EU. So shout out EU. Getting rid of that stupid lightning cable, and just giving us the same cord that everyone else used for like 90% of the stuff that we need to charge nowadays. Thank you, EU. I'm hyped about this. Going into a nerdy self. Toys R Us live action film announced. Is there even any Toys R Us left? They used to always go to the one in Chesterfield if you're from St. Louis. There used to be a movie theater there as well. I believe it was Clayton Cinema on Clarkson right there. Just a great spot. Go to Toys R Us, go watch a movie. Story Kitchen and Toys R Us Studios announced a live-action movie based on the iconic toy store chain, trending on X since April 22nd, 2025. The film, likened to The Night at the Museum or Big, aims to capture the nostalgia and magic of Toys R Us. Reactions on X are mixed. Some fans are thrilled. I'm thrilled. While others criticize Hollywood's lack of originality, with one user joking, just bring back the stores. Exactly. Well, there's a reason they left. The project reflects a broader trend of brand-driven films following successes like Barbie. Didn't see it. No release date or cast has been confirmed, but the announcement has sparked buzz amid Toys R Us's ongoing retail rival efforts. Every single year on Christmas, you get the Toys R Us catalog. You open it up. You look at the toys. You look at the games. What do I want? That's what I remember. Circle everything. No, not really. You circle a handful of things. Maybe 10 things. Parents or Santa, right? Santa gets them for you. Oh, to be a kid and believe in Santa. So nice. I'm hyped. And I'm not a big fan of any of these types of things usually. So this is great. Toys R Us just brings me back. It's just like Oblivion. It's just nostalgia through and through. Also, what's been huge on social media lately is just nostalgia content itself. which has been absolutely massive. I like quite a few 90s era, early 2000s pages. Just give me some Rugrats. Give me some old school Nickelodeon. Give me some of that. Give me the old school malls, the mall vibe. Something nice about nostalgia. I wonder what that is. We got some other big news. That whole story. And we got NFL draft going on. Hype for that. You see Shannon Sharp's news? Oh, should we talk about Shannon Sharp? Listening to some of his conversations has been crazy. I don't know why these super successful, famous, rich, wealthy people have with talking to these OnlyFans models that obviously are only in it for money. You're someone that, has the ability, Shannon Sharp, to sign like a, $100 million contract. I mean, he's huge. He has a, Club Shay Shay. He has an after-hour show. He's on, First Take and ESPN, which he just stepped away from ESPN as of, yesterday. He's temporarily, stepping away from his roles on First Take and other ESPN duties due to a $50 million civil lawsuit filed in Nevada. The lawsuit filed by an anonymous woman, she's not anonymous, you can see her, she's out there, alleges RAPE, sexual assault, battery, and threats over a 2-year relationship. Sharp denies the allegations, claiming the relationship was 100% consensual and plans to return for the NFL preseason. ESPN issued a statement supporting his decision to step back, calling it a serious situation. Of course, some falsely claimed he was terminated. The controversy follows reports of a potential $100 million deal with the Volume Network, now in question for the podcast. Of course, Sharp's podcast, Club Shay Shay, resonates with, it's huge, right? He went viral by having Cat Williams on, was it last year sometime? So Shannon Sharp's massive, not only just on normal cable TV, but also online as well. I don't know if he's innocent or not. So, it's just if you look at, if you're that successful, I don't know why you're messing around with these type of women. Like, why are you putting yourself in a position to get it taken advantage of when you're in the light that much? It just makes no sense to me. Just be smart. Like, this just screams stupidity. And again, just go and listen to some of the audio. There's plenty of video and audio out there. They're just gonna be like, Shannon, what is wrong with you, my guy? You got some issues. You got some issues, Shannon. And he's also a huge, what do you call it? Bigot. Someone that does exactly what he makes fun of. He's making fun of Donnell Williams for having, for essentially having a wife and a kid, or not wife anymore, but having a kid with someone essentially half his age. And then Shannon Sharp is doing the exact same thing with this, with this lawsuit here with this lady. So it's just like, how many times do we have to see the fallout of a guy? And, I'm hoping nothing nefarious is actually happening in this relationship. If there is, then obviously, whatever punishment is coming to you, it's going to be coming to you. But, I don't know why these people aren't protecting themselves and putting themselves in better situations to not get taken advantage of. Like, this is not some genius breakthrough thing I'm saying for these people. And it's not even something that really, just them should follow. We should all really, follow that to not get taken advantage of. But if you're, about to, sign a contract for your podcast for $100 million and you're out messing around doing things like this on the back end, it's just, how are you so responsible? I just spit water everywhere. My God. How are you so responsible when it comes to business, being, having good interviews, having people come on your podcast, being a successful, football player, being a successful ESPN anchor and announcer, being on First Take and all of these things, and then you're behind the scenes doing this. It's like 1+1 doesn't equal 2 to some of these people. It's like they're doing the math of what's that actor's name that thinks he like broke math and that 1+1 doesn't equal 2. Terrence Howard. So funny. Terrence Howard. In other news, we got Perplexity CEO says its browser will track everything users do online to sell hyper-personalized ads. So he says this, and it's like, now to marketers, it's like, oh my God, genius. But it's almost like they're trying to market this as a good thing for end users because it's like, oh, the ads you're going to get are going to be so personalized that it's going to be like the best ads. We're going to have the best ads. They're going to be so personalized. Perplexity doesn't just want to compete with Google. It apparently wants to be Google. CEO Aravind Srinivas, I just butchered that name, said this week on the TBPN podcast that one reason Perplexity is building its own browser is to collect data on everything users do outside of its own app. Does that mean also collecting data on what you're doing just on your computer, even if you're not inside of the browser itself? What does that mean? That's kind of one of the reasons we wanted to build a browser is we want to get data even outside the app to better understand you. Because some of the prompts that people do in these AIs is purely work-related. It's not like that. It's not like that's personal. And work-related queries won't help the AI company build an accurate enough dossier. On the other hand, what are the things you're buying? Which hotels are you going to? Which restaurants are you going to? What are you spending time browsing? Tells us so much more about you. So they're just trying to do Google. Literally, Google takes all of that data already. It's in maps. They know where you are. They track you. They know what you're spending. They know what you're searching. They believe, this guy, gentleman, Srinivas, believes that Perplexity's browser users will be fine with such tracking because the ads should be more relevant to them. Oh, you want more relevant ads? In order for us to track absolutely everything you're doing? Yeah, sounds great. We plan to use all the context to build a better user profile, and maybe, through our Discover feed, we could show some ads there. The browser name Comet, wow. Couldn't have set the just science corner over here, suffered setbacks, but is on track to be launched in May. He's not wrong, of course. Quietly following users around the internet helped Google become the roughly $2 trillion market cap company it is today, of course. That's why I built a browser and mobile operating system, of course. Perplexity is attempting something in the mobile world too. It's signed a partnership with Motorola. Wow, shout out. Haven't heard that name in a while. Announced Thursday where its app will be pre-installed on the Razr series. Wait, Razr's still around? No way. What? Looks like the Samsung Flip. Is that literally what it is? Is it just the Samsung Flip? I didn't even know Motorola was making phones. Motorola. It's Motorola Razr and it looks like the same phone. No, they're not the same phone. Interesting. Well, I remember the classic Razr. Great to open up, skinny, fit in a pocket, looked great. Oh, the Razr was classic. They're also in talks with Samsung. He didn't confirm it, though he did reference on the podcast a Bloomberg article published earlier this month that discussed both partnerships. Obviously, Google isn't the only one watching users online to sell ads. Meta ad tracking technology Pixels, which is embedded on websites across the internet, Gathers data even on people that don't have access to Facebook or Instagram accounts. Even Apple, which has marketed itself as a privacy protector, can't resist tracking users' locations by default. On the other hand, this kind of thing has led people across the political spectrum in the U.S. and Europe to distrust big tech. The irony of Srinivas openly explaining his browser tracking and ad selling ambitions this week also can't be overstated. Google is currently in court fighting the U.S. Department of Justice, which has alleged Google behaved in monopolistic ways to dominate search and online advertising. The DOJ wants the judge to order Google to divest Chrome. Lot of stuff going on in science technology corner. All right, that's all I got to talk about today. We have some hopefully interesting news coming up here in the next couple weeks about the podcast, so stay tuned there. As always, like, review, subscribe, leave a comment, please share. We appreciate everyone's support. Also, as always, we're sitting here, Half Coast Studios, here in St. Louis. If you're local, if you need a podcast studio, they'll take care of you. If you're just looking up Podcast Studio St. Louis, it'll take you to Half Coast Studios. You know why? Because it's built by my marketing agency, Vi Media. So if you're looking for digital marketing services here in St. Louis or abroad, we work all 50 states and Canada, depending. Depending. But please get a hold of us. We are the best day marketing company on the planet. This has been another week of the St. Louis podcast. We appreciate everyone listening, and we'll talk to you next week. Thank you. Goodbye.
Hey there, St. Louis podcast listeners. We've got some exciting news from our friends over at Farmers Insurance of St. Louis, led by the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Lee of Farmers Insurance.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking for a job or to own your own business under a brand that everyone and their cousin is familiar with, Mark Lee with Farmers Insurance of St. Louis is recruiting insurance agency owners here in St. Louis for their Farmers Insurance Mentorship Program.
And as many of you are aware, Garrett and I have owned quite a few successful and award-winning businesses over the years. And in a past life, one of those was a Farmers Insurance agency out of Chesterfield, Missouri.
Eric and I know firsthand how hard it is to start a business under a brand that no one has heard of and convince consumers and businesses to trust that you're an authority figure in your industry.
And as many of you know, we own an award-winning marketing firm, Vi Media, the one that Garrett was just discussing. And building that company's reputation literally took years. We're still building it to this day, and it's been 8 years in the making. However, with the Trusted Farmers Insurance Agency name on the building, we got started when we started our Farmers Insurance Agency. The trust was already built and has been for 96 years.
And if you can't do math, that means Farmers Insurance has been around since 1928. Luckily, you don't need to be a human calculator to get rich as an owner of your very own Farmers Insurance Agency.
Nope. All you have to do is reach out to the one and only Mark Lee, the leader of Farmers Insurance in the greater St. Louis metropolitan area.
That's right. So ensure he continues to sponsor our show and your favorite podcast, the St. Louis podcast, by quitting your job today and calling Mark Lee. I wouldn't even wait for him to answer your call. Call your boss now, quit, and become your very own business owner.
Mm-hmm. Visit insurancecareerstl.com. That is insurancecareerstl.com. Should we spell it out?
Yes. It would
INSURANCE. Career, CAREER, STL.com, insurancecareerstl.com. Go there now. Back to the podcast.
And wait, insurancecareerstl.com.
Back to the podcast.